Hi, it's November 14th, and this is Path to Wholeness podcast about Natural Energy One. This is my friend Greg Goldin, and Greg has Natural Energy One. I met him a couple months ago, so he's relatively new to this. And today we're going to talk a bit about his experience of life, what it's like to find out his Natural Energy One, some of the impact that might have had, and just find a little bit more about what it's like to live as a young male Natural Energy One.
Sounds good to me.
Cool.
Beautiful.
So, why don't you introduce yourself? Just tell us a little bit about your background or whatever you think might be relevant for people to help understand you.
Yeah. Well, I would say Gregory Goldin here. Originally from California, Los Angeles. Went to college for photography in Santa Barbara. That's where I met my partner, who was born and raised here in Great Falls, Montana. Here we are 9 years later. Came back for love and now living in Bozeman, Montana, where I do personal guidance.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So, I identified you a couple months ago. What was that experience like?
It was very cool. I was at the Mind, Body, Soul fair in Butte, Montana.
Yeah.
That's right. And it was a lovely experience. You identified me as one, and everything that you had said I totally resonated with. As well as my personal beliefs that we're all the numbers, right? That we all have characteristics and facets of them.
Yes.
And at the same time that we're more one than the other.
Yes.
And so everything that you had said about being a one was something that I totally recognized.
Resonated with you.
Completely.
I'm going to use your physiology to
Please.
educate people about what Natural Energy One looks like out in the world. So pretend you're looking at some beautiful person in the camera for me. So sit nice and straight for me. Yeah, and then just lift your chin and focus on the camera. So the Natural Energy One physiology from here down can show up almost any way. But what they typically have is this beautiful jawline. Can you turn sideways also? So that's a very beautiful square jawline. So when they bring their chin up, this line here goes parallel to the ground. It's pretty consistent.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. And typically you look like you have longer necks, but that can vary, of course, based off of a lot of different factors, genetic factors and things. But you typically see this jawline, and you typically see that open neck. Look at the camera again for me.
Yeah.
The other thing you see is when their chin comes up and forward, their eyes get very soft and receptive. So they start to take you in. And if you are with a person who is being with you in this way, that they just naturally raise their chin and soften their eyes, they're actually looking for extended eye contact. And so people of Natural Energy One really appreciate it when you hold eye contact. Have you found that to be true in your life as well?
I would say completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they love being in my presence as well as being engaged with me because there's a lot of connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Well, how would you describe the connection that you're able to create as a Natural Energy One with people?
Well, that's a beautiful question. I would say feels effortless on my end. Feels like I'm here to do this, to connect effortlessly and bond through love as I do, empower others to empower themselves, and so being a mirror to others, as well as go through my own journey of that completely.
Well, so really lifting and really activating from that place, that connection to yourself and with me, what would you say your deepest values are?
I love that. Human connection, to begin with. To realize that we are not alone in any of this, that we're all bonded together, and how humbling and how not alone that feels, that we're all part of this, that we all are resources to one another, and that it feels like one giant family. I know through my own personal journey of being cut off, quote unquote, not only through everyone, but through myself. And I think that's where we go through life trying to connect to something outside of ourselves, first and foremost, when first and foremost it's connecting to us, connecting to one, all that is, God, whatever we identify with.
Yeah, well, I ones have told me that their connection to Source, we'll call it Source for now, is a very big part of how, the ability to see wonder and awe and the Source is contained in anything and everything. Is that your experience as well? Tell us about your relationship to Source.
Yeah, I would say there was a couple years of me figuring out my identity and figuring out my place in this all. And realizing my connection to myself, to Source, to universe, love, God, Buddha, all the great things synonymous.
Right.
When I found that connection with myself, that's when everything was flowing. When I flowed with life, life was flowing with me. And the gateway, quote unquote, had been opened from there on. Which, realizing here now that gateway has always been open.
Yes.
Yes, here we are. And just tapping into that.
Yeah, and helping others know it's available.
Tenfold.
Yeah.
Tenfold.
Yeah, I think when people of Natural Energy One don't actually realize the extent to which they offer that to others. So I'll just honor that in you, that, from the moment I met you, it's like, oh yes, your presence, you're honoring me and respecting who I am, and it's just a beautiful, as you say, effortless thing to do, to be in connection. And I think we crave that as human beings.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that value that I bring to others is also that value that, of course, is a reflection to me, that I'm finding my own value within myself, and here we are too.
Well, that's another really important aspect of Natural Energy One, which is helping people to know they have value, that they matter. Yeah. Okay, there's so much despair out in the world, and so to help people know that they're gonna be okay. Sometimes it's so simple. Yeah. You're gonna be okay.
Exactly.
And I know that when I'm with you.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that beautiful?
I wish I could take credit, and in
well,
some
you
senses
should.
I do.
You do. I mean,
thank you.
This is the other thing. It's like your gift as a one. I can't give the same gift that you give. I give a totally different gift.
Right.
For me as a 6, I'm receiving your one, I'm filling it with more love and sending it back to you so you can feel how amazing you are. Yeah, it's a beautiful. It's a 6-1 is a lovely. Yeah. It is. It's real, super sweet.
I love it.
For you to know that, I think it's actually really important that people are seeing and you have a sense of knowing they have that value, because you give people hope. There's hope buried in there, because the world can be a kind of despairing place if we don't connect into something bigger than us at some level. It really helps us with our sense of purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the really challenging things I've seen with Natural Energy Ones, especially males, is vulnerability. And allowing people, because to actually truly be in this kind of connection, you have to allow me to see you.
Totally.
Which is extraordinarily vulnerable.
Right.
So how's that been for you over the course of your life?
Yeah, I would say with my identity, so I identify myself, I don't like to put any labels on myself or anyone for that matter. However, we use them as vehicles for us to understand where people are at. So I identified as gay growing up, as well as just identifying as, I love somebody for who they are. It doesn't matter what gender. And so being vulnerable with myself already, being in a community that already supported me and my identity, felt very vulnerable enough that I was. Yeah, that's. My cards are all shown. Growing up in church as well, in those chapters of my life, it was very vulnerable, I would say.
So that was also supported in you.
Totally.
That's really great.
Yeah.
Because it's something I see that is not always supported in young men. What I see happens is that most young men get driven towards competition as a way of showing their strength. And because one is so much about we're equal, nobody's better, there's no winner.
Exactly. We're all here on the same journey. We're all resources to one another.
Equally valuable.
Totally.
Every being should be respected and honored.
Amen.
So competition is kind of super counter to what your deepest nature, how it wants you to be. It's not that you can't win or be competitive.
Right.
If you wanted to, you could be very good at that.
Totally.
But it is, I see that's a real challenge for young men. Did you encounter that as you were growing up as well?
Not so much. I would say like going through high school, I was prom king, I was on school TV, and I had a great, just being in front of the camera, I guess you could say. And had a great support team with my friends, people that are on the football team, everything from highs to lows, nerds, I was all of those things, if anything.
How young were you when you came out?
I would say high school. Yeah, so I was freshman in high school.
Okay, yeah. So you went through all of high school. That's great. That's super brave of you.
Yeah.
It was a thing. Sounds like it was a good thing for you.
It was great. So aside from being, my mom was Catholic, my dad was Jew. Technically, I say I was a cashew, and there was no really black or white with anything. I was always in the 50 Shades of Greg. And so it was beautiful because that afforded me to just treat others as I wanted to be treated. Golden rule was totally, as my last name is, if anything.
Yeah.
Treat others how I want to be treated, and instilling the love that I have for myself in others. And it's been a beautiful journey to be here through that.
It's just so nice to see somebody that's kind of owned this oneness, because what it's so valuable and so important. Our world is not really set up for this honoring and cherishing of each other very well. So one of the other pieces for one is most ones, because you're bumping up against the perfection of source all the time, have a voice that says, you're not perfect, I love you. But most ones kind of ignore that I love you part that comes from source, because at some level we describe it as that source has set you up as a deliverer of source in the human world. And so you're constantly being compared to that perfection that you perceive. Have you struggled with that at all over the course of your life?
Yeah, I would say so. I went to college for photography, as mentioned earlier, and got a great job during my curriculum, as well as after for celebrity retouching and the celebrity world, celebrity photography.
Oh, wow.
And so not only was I set up for success for a salary paid position to do celebrity work, as I was kind of destined to do, quote unquote, and this idea of a perfect life and my ideals, that I would be in the world that I wanted to be in. As well as here I was in a craft, with all due respect, post-production, to set a standard for beauty, for perfection.
Yes.
Yes.
It's not uncommon that ones end up inside some work around creating very beautiful things, but keep going. This is an interesting story.
So that perfection was something where I was teetering on a fence, not only within my journey, but my spiritual journey, of how I wanted to be fulfilled or empowered completely. And that's when my partner at that time, we had decided to move to Montana. And within myself, it felt that if I were to pick up this salary position or this job, that I would not be fulfilled in the way going through that pathway at that time. And so I followed the heart, followed love, and came to Montana, where I ended up going into energy healing, ended up going into myself, if anything, doing all the work, personal work.
Irony, and that California is the hotbed birthplace of most of that stuff.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things I really loved about Bozeman is Bozeman's surprisingly open to not just one narrow way of being.
Right.
Yeah.
Completely. They were open.
Yeah.
And so I came to Montana, and that's when the opposite of perfection, if you will, if there's a duality, that I was experiencing the non-perfection, the messiness, the shadows, the beautifulness that completes the yin and yang, if anything. And so that's where I was diving into myself and doing my personal work, so that I can now be a resource to others as I go through all of that.
That's really great.
Yeah.
So hearing that voice of you're not perfect, and not hearing the I love you part, that is that something you've had to struggle with in life?
Being loved, would you say?
Well, actually, just not feeling that you yourself aren't as perfect as source, and that can descend for some ones into kind of a spiral of negativity. I'm not worthy, kind of a spiral.
Right. I would say, there's been past relationships where it was questioning my value or my worth, and I think that's a direct reflection to the capacity to receive love, which is then a reflection to, am I lovable? Am I loved?
What's helped you kind of overcome and find that place of love for yourself?
Yeah, recognizing the love in others, recognizing that love in others is exactly the same love that is within myself, tenfold. And what a beautiful journey it is to not distinguish just the surface of things, the labels, the separation, the male, female, the duality of things.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, isn't it? This paradox of being, and it's like we're not separate and we're not different, yet we are.
Completely, right?
Separate,
it's like
extremely different. Yeah,
and that's what we utilize in this world of things, right?
Yeah.
That we get to use them as vehicles, and that's why I said that earlier.
Yeah.
They are vehicles that we could drive in until it serves its purpose, and then we get into another vehicle.
Yeah. I when I have these conversations, I love these conversations because I am constantly marveling, like, wow, like how beautiful and amazing you are, and how different you are than the next person that I talk to.
Totally.
And then if I talk to another natural energy one, of course they're unique and different, but there is this commonality, this thread of oneness, which is in the physicality, and also what's important to you, what you value, and a lot of times some of the same life experiences are shared, which is kind of interesting.
Sure.
Do you have any questions for me about your oneness?
Any questions for you? I would say, what are further things that a one can come further into oneness?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
One is just practicing your posture. So just it's really subtle. It's just a nice stretch, and then just a little more chin forward.
Chin forward.
Just a little bit, because that can create this activation. Because it's these muscles down here. It's okay if I touched your chin. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So these muscles are become taut, and there's actually a sending of energy from the throat to throat, and also ones can also ask for eye contact. Because they don't, we don't volunteer it. 5 out of the 9 natural energies don't actually use eye contact to do what they do.
Right.
It doesn't mean they don't benefit from looking at somebody in their eye, but that actually, when I look at you in the eye, I lose connection to doing my 6th thing, which is completely different.
Right.
So practicing just with the physicality, asking for eye contact when you need it. Learning more, just, it turns out one of the things you brought up early on was that all the centers are in your body. So you have a head that has 3, you have a chest that has 3, and you have a torso that has 3. And so the learning to activate the others also gives you a perspective on how special you are.
I love that.
Because to truly understand that you're nothing like me, you have to vibrate your chest. So you have to actually feel what it's like to be a 6, because I don't have any awareness necessarily of the beauty of things. I don't think about it. I don't, unless I see a sunset.
Respect.
I need something huge. So, but I feel the energy of things. So to me, it's like, what is most alive? What is most exciting? So I expand my chest and look around the room. I was like, oh, now I'm attracted to all the things in the room. So that's to understand me, and thereby understand the difference between us and what you have to offer me. And to receive what I give. That's the learning to activate the whole body, all 9 centers. So that's really the piece of work that I have found to be most life-changing about this.
I love that.
Getting activated in your own energy is powerful, and that's where you start, because that's you. But to truly get the perspective, the full perspective, all 9 give you that. So that would be my 2 bits of unsolicited, semi-solicited advice there.
I love that. I love that.
I think we've talked about a lot of the most important things in becoming an adult as a natural energy one. Let's talk about creativity, because that's, I think, a huge part of one as well. Creativity and I want to say accuracy and specificity with language. How do those 3 things play out for you in your life?
Can you repeat them again, please, for me?
So specificity
Right.
and accuracy of language.
Right.
And let's do that one first, and then we'll come back to the other, which was, I've forgotten too. So creativity. Thank you.
We're good.
Yeah.
Accountable. I would say communication is the key to success, especially for me. That your words are deliberate and articulate to communicate how you feel to me. And so it is very important to me to keep that open, transparent, and very direct, because I think that's how I receive the best of intentions, literally. That despite I can feel the intentions behind them energetically or on another sense, that in terms of the vehicles, that they're very direct, that they're very open and honest and transparent for me to receive.
Are you familiar with Jason Silva? Have you heard of him?
Yes, I am.
He's a 1 also.
Oh, I love that.
And he talks
We're best of friends, yeah.
I'd like to meet him, so if you do know him, I want to meet him.
Let's do it.
So Jason talks often about how our language, what we say and how we say it, actually creates our reality.
Right.
That it forms and shapes our relationships. And I thought that was really very apropos. And I think ones understand that more clearly than some of the other natural energies.
Right.
So just another thing for you
Definitely.
to be aware of.
And I think it's the feeling behind, right? It's the emotions and the feeling behind those words that definitely carry that vehicle, that carry those words forward entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just, I tend to for all the ones out there, the rest of us are a little obtuse in comparison with our words and our communication abilities. That's the other thing I think that I really have valued deeply about learning about the different natural energies is not to assume that you're going to be like me, or that because you're not like me, it means that you are behaving a particular way.
Right.
So to then not be judging in our relationships.
Comparison, yeah, completely.
Yeah, and so that to me has opened my eyes to more ways of being for me as well.
Lovely.
Yeah. So let's circle back to creativity.
Yeah.
My experience with ones also is they really value their creativity and look for all kinds of ways to bring creativity into any process.
Amen, yes. I would say starting at a young age that I was always identified as an artist, just painting, creating different things, not only business-wise, creating in communications, seeing things differently, just thinking outside the box, creatively, completely.
Do you do that collaboratively, or is that something you do more, personally? Yeah.
I would say both.
Both.
I have my own vices that I do that completely fulfill me, as well as I open them up and have beautiful co-creations with other individuals. That creativity that sparks and that literally flows through all of us. I think opening up that channel comes through in any medium, any person, any means. And so the more that I found myself to be open to it, the more it's open up to me. And the same could be said about love, the same could be said about respect, creativity, all the greatest of things. Yeah.
So sometimes young ones have sometimes expressed to me some levels of social anxiety. Phones, for example. Some ones have told me they don't really like to talk on the phone. I'm just checking in with you.
Yeah.
Have you had any of those kind of experiences?
I would say personally no.
Oh.
I grew up, there's a funny story that my mom always says that she always prayed for me when I was a baby to her dad, which was my grandpa, that I wasn't talking at the normal month's age or something. And I was just quiet up to a couple, even like a year I think it was. I was just quiet, didn't talk at all. And she said, Dad, like he's not speaking, what's going on? Like I keep praying. And he says, once you start praying, like once he starts talking, he won't stop talking. And so true. Not only do I express myself through words, but I express myself creatively through other means. And that has not stopped at all. That's been my constant. That I definitely can feel myself being extroverted as well as introspective, where I know where I need to take my time for myself to recharge. Knowing my boundaries, quote unquote, of engagement, how much I want to be in the community, or when I know I need to come back and just recharge, watch Netflix and just binge.
Yes.
But yeah, I'd say feel pretty comfortable.
That's good. That's good. Any words of wisdom for other natural energy ones in the growing up process? I mean, what would you offer to other people like you?
Yeah, not to be afraid. Right? I think everything comes down to being fearful of something, any type of disruption, any type of ill will, or feeling any otherwise. It has something to do with fear, right? And I think that could be said for anyone. But in terms of the ones, or speaking to more of myself, that it is not to be afraid of creatively expressing yourself, that it's okay to be vulnerable with yourself and your story. We all have a story. We're all in this human journey together. And what uniquely makes us is here for us. Your story, the things you do, the way you look at things, it's here given to us uniquely for whoever it is. And that there's such a beauty and gift in that. And that's meant to be shared. That's meant to be expressed completely.
That's great. Super. Well, I think this was a super interview, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be with me.
Thank you so much.